In the Victorian era of London, refined gentle ladies occupied their days with delicate embroidery, elegant social gatherings, and the restrained trivialities of conventional high society. Yet Mary Kingsley cast aside all worldly restraint, packed her bulky luggage, and stepped alone into the deadly dense jungles of West Africa. Clad in her strict formal Victorian long dresses, she dared to undertake the wildest of adventures, locking gazes with massive crocodiles amid murky swamp mud. Tonight, accompanied by the soft flickering glow of the hearth fire, let us embark on the fantastical journey of this unruly free-spirited soul. She was once confined and trapped within the endless trivial chores of domestic life, not breathing the air of true freedom for the first time until she turned 30. Mary Kingsley, an extraordinary independent woman who dismantled fear with warm good humor and stood firm against deep-rooted prejudice with unshakable calm. To her eyes, Africa was never portrayed as a savage, desolate wasteland, but as a vibrant spiritual movement of living, breathing life resonating with natural rhythm. On this quiet, deep night, let us listen closely to this old wilderness tale about breaking free from bondage and searching for one's true self. If life grants you only one single chance to embrace bold adventure, would you choose to abandon the comfort of a stable, peaceful routine? Mary Kingsley chose exactly this path. Gliding along remote waterways in narrow dugout canoes, she wrote down the hidden, untold side of so-called civilized society. Her entire life became a vivid collision between elegant long gowns and thorny wilderness, a graceful dance between refined sophistication and untamed wildness. You need not strain to memorize every detail of tonight's story. Simply follow her footsteps and wander through the wilds of West Africa as you drift gently toward peaceful sleep. Picture yourself standing deep within the steamy, humid, unknown jungles of West Africa. In 1893, a colossal crocodile attempts to clamber onto the swaying, fragile canoe, its cold vertical pupils gleaming with greedy menace. Faced with such mortal danger, most ordinary people would scream, flee in terror, or surrender to hopeless fate. Yet Mary Kingsley remained perfectly calm. She slowly drew her heavy, sturdy umbrella from beside her long skirt and pressed it firmly against the crocodile's snout. She even spoke to the uninvited guest with quiet, polite composure, gently suggesting it return to the waters where it belonged. Tonight, accompanied by the softly flickering glow of the hearth fire, we walk fully into the untold life of this remarkable soul. Through this tranquil tale meant only for quiet reflection, Mary Kingsley, a woman who had never once left the quiet suburbs of London before turning 30, how did she transform into a favored, fearless wanderer of the untamed jungle? Her life unfolded as an elegant, quiet revenge against rigid social stereotypes and a serene, profound exploration into the true essence of life. When she stepped into muddy marshlands draped in layers of traditional Victorian dresses, she sought far more than rare fish specimens and natural collections. She sought to reclaim her genuine, unrestrained self, long locked away behind delicate British teacups and the heavy, endless burden of household duties. One quiet early morning in the year Mary Kingsley turned 30, her familiar world suddenly emptied into profound, lonely silence. Her parents, who she had devoted her entire life to caring for, passed away one after another within only a few short months, leaving her with barely enough inheritance to survive and nothing more than the endless grey, rainy days of London stretching endlessly ahead. For most women of that era, such loss usually marked the opening chapter to a lonely old age or a lifetime of relying on the reluctant charity of distant relatives. Yet Mary pushed open her dust-covered window and gazed toward the dark, shadowed regions marked on the map, lands her father had spoken of repeatedly throughout her youth. Without hesitation, she purchased a one-way ticket bound for the west coast of Africa. She traveled with no accompanying servants, no husband beside her, and no carefully planned expedition route. Neighbors whispered behind her back, murmuring that Miss Kingsley must have lost her senses or set out on a reckless journey destined for self-destruction. Yet the moment she stepped onto the ship's deck, Mary felt the tight, restrictive corset that had confined her spirit for 30 years loosen at last, allowing her to breathe freely for the very first time. Carrying her father's unfinished academic research aspirations and an almost innocent curiosity toward the unknown world, she sailed toward a coastline notorious for its terrifyingly high mortality rate. People of that age referred to this perilous land as the white man's grave, but to Mary it represented her only true chance at freedom and rebirth. She could never have imagined the jungle lay waiting ahead, far more complex and treacherous than the thick fogs of London, a place destined to awaken within her an unprecedented, profound self-discovery and spiritual renewal. If you had chanced upon Mary Kingsley wandering through the swampy marshlands of Gabon, you would have found the scene strikingly surreal and utterly absurd. Even amid sweltering 40-degree heat, thick clouds of biting mosquitoes, and suffocating humid air, she stubbornly maintained her full formal attire, clad in heavy black wool and long dresses with high necklines, tightly fastened cuffs, and a neat small round hat proper enough for any London social gathering. This seemingly rigid adherence to Victorian dress codes concealed Mary's most secret protective armor and quiet survival wisdom. On one occasion she accidentally stumbled into a hidden primitive trap lined with sharp wooden stakes like hardened spears, yet the layered structure of her full skirt miraculously blocked the pointed shafts, saving her from fatal injury. She wrote light-heartedly in her diary, with typical British good humor, giving thanks to the cumbersome elaborate fashions of her time, crediting those restrictive feminine garments with saving her life. She hired local Fang tribe guides, a fierce powerful tribe rumored and feared across Europe as ruthless cannibals. Unlike the male explorers of her time who brandished firearms to intimidate native tribes, Mary earned sincere respect through fair honest trade, unwavering calm and genuine mutual understanding. She soon realized that when approaching indigenous communities as a humble merchant rather than an arrogant conqueror, all legendary hostility and suspicion melted away into peaceful cooperation. She learned to distinguish every subtle unfamiliar sound echoing through the jungle and mastered how to maintain steady balance while wading through chest-deep thick muddy waters. During these wild wandering days she was no longer the quiet overlooked dutiful daughter from suburban London. She became the unrivaled mistress of her own canoe, racing against violent tropical thunderstorms and navigating the untamed wilderness with quiet unshakable confidence. Mary Kingsley's observations of Africa carried a remarkable clarity, calm insight and depth, far ahead of her time. In an era swept up by surging imperialist sentiment, European explorers and colonizers often hid greedy plunder behind the noble pretense of civilizing savage lands, yet Mary perceived sharply and honestly that African societies possessed their own complete legal system, sophisticated social logic, and well-established cultural structures. She would sit quietly beside crackling tribal campfires, listening patiently to village elders recount ancient animist beliefs and ancestral legends, while meticulously recording the habits, characteristics and traits of every fish species and jungle creature she encountered. She firmly opposed the forced imposition of European religious doctrine to erase traditional indigenous customs, viewing such arrogance as a cruel violation of precious cultural diversity. Her independent, fearless opinions brought her cold rejection from mainstream society. Upon her return to London, with many politicians even condemning her as a traitor to her own heritage, yet during countless long solitary African nights she had witnessed the radiant brightness of human virtue shining vividly amid the most primitive untamed surroundings. She saw the quiet dignity of Fang warriors facing mortal danger and the unbreakable resilience of African women enduring relentless hardship and pressure. These genuine heartfelt scenes flowed back to stubborn traditional London. Through her pen filled with gentle British wit and thoughtful reflection, she sought tirelessly to teach the world that Africa was no overgrown wasteland waiting to be trimmed and controlled by outsiders, but a living, breathing forest with its own inherent rhythm, dignity and right to exist. Her profound compassion arose not from condescending charity from a privileged distance, but from a deep spiritual resonance shared by two souls both once confined, restrained and longing for true freedom. When Mary finally returned to London laden with rare natural specimens and diaries filled with countless detailed notes, she instantly became a sensational celebrity across the nation. Crowds flocked eagerly to attend her public lectures, hungry for thrilling blood-soaked tales of daring adventure. Yet Mary always spoke of her experiences with quiet understatement, casually recounting how she had chased away aggressive crocodiles with her long-handled umbrella or protected her precious tea caddy. Amid raging tropical storms she disliked being molded into a heroic icon, preferring simply to describe herself as a fortunate ordinary traveler. Yet the dazzling spotlight of fame and public admiration could never fill the quiet emptiness lingering deep within her soul. Late at night her mind would drift back effortlessly to the unforgettable scent of the African jungle, a rich heady blend of decaying fallen leaves, fresh blooming wildflowers and a faint sharp tang of raw wilderness. She could no longer adapt to London's hollow polite formalities, narrow-minded social circles and rigid constrained way of life. When the Second Boer War broke out, Mary once again chose to set out without hesitation, this time journeying to medical outposts in South Africa. Overwhelmed with wounded dying soldiers, she abandoned her peaceful comfortable life as a celebrated writer, laid aside her elegant formal gowns and donned a nurse's uniform, moving tirelessly amid foul odors, suffering sickness and the constant shadow of death. When asked why she risked her life to care for gravely wounded dying soldiers, she only responded with a soft, quiet, gentle smile. Perhaps for Mary Kingsley, as long as she could keep sailing along the endless flowing river of life, even if the final destination led to death, it was infinitely preferable to withering away slowly, trapped safely upon the quiet shore. In 1900 Mary Kingsley passed away peacefully from typhoid fever in a South African hospital at the young age of 37. Following her final heartfelt last wish, her body was carried out to the open sea beyond Cape Town, laid to rest in a solemn sea burial sinking into the depths of the boundless blue ocean. Even in her final moments she maintained her inherent restrained dignity, requesting doctors leave her chamber so She could face the end entirely alone. Her life journey began. Within the narrow quiet confines of a London study, bloomed fully amid the vast untamed wilderness of primitive jungles, and finally sank into the eternal quiet rhythm of ocean waves. She left behind no vast wealth or grand estate, yet gifted future generations with the inspiring image of an alternative way to live bravely, freely and authentically. She taught us that no matter how heavy and restrictive the hemline of reality may weigh upon us, the soul will always find its own quiet path to wade through hardship, break free and journey onward. Now the hearth fire softens into gentle embers, the night outside deepens into profound stillness, a shade of dark natural green reminiscent of the jungle Mary knew so well. You need not dwell on tedious social rules or trivial worries of tomorrow. Let this story drift around you like a soft gentle breeze. May the calm gentle strength of her spirit stay beside you, allowing you to fall into serene, peaceful slumber just as Mary rested quietly beneath the jungle night in that boundless free realm illuminated only by starlight, untouched by worldly prejudice. May you find perfect rest, sweet dreams and tranquil peace.